Hello, and this is Julie Ann at the House of Influence podcast. And today I have Tami Jennings with me. And Tami was one of the authors that was at our retreat in May, working on the book about the reciprocal benefits of therapy. And I am delighted to have Tami here. We have an amazing story to tell, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what happened to her while she was here, a little bit about her story, and then we're going to talk about how powerful gratitude is. So welcome, Tami.
Thank you.
So Tami, tell us a little bit about your story. I know that the other all the other people that were here were therapists and they were actively in counseling, but you're actually telling a story about when you were a counselor that was helping in the adoption system. So tell us a little bit about that and about your story.
Okay, well, I was a social worker for Indian child welfare, and so I had different families and clients that were trying to foster or adopt children or a child. And since I myself was adopted, it was really meaningful to me on so many levels, because I saw people that were experiencing exactly what my parents experienced by being infertile. And being a part of a huge family that had all kinds of sisters, brothers, and then they all had children, which would have been my cousins. My mother was the youngest of the whole family, and she couldn't have children. So seeing other people childless and wanting a child and going through all the steps and being so committed to doing everything just the right way and working so hard at it and waiting for so long really made me grateful for my parents' determination, because if they hadn't had that and stick-to-itiveness where they kept trying, they probably would not have gotten my older adopted sister and I.
Beautiful. Now, I know that you told the story about a particular boy that was born with alcohol fetal syndrome. And so there was a lot of concerns, how he would turn out. And this particular family that you were helping, you had told the mother about the situation. And to your delight, she had said, I just want to give this little boy the best opportunity in life. And I know that when you heard that really felt like a reflection of your own parents and how committed they were to you as a child.
Yes. They got a call that a birth mother had a child, had chosen them from their profile book, which is just like a picture book and a little story about them and why they want a child. And they were a little bit older than the norm. And so that made it a little harder for them, because most young women who are giving up their children for adoption see the younger people, and maybe that's a little bit more, I don't know, something that they want. And this couple was a little bit older, and that may have been off-putting, but they had waited quite a while. And they were a wonderful couple, but I knew that they were getting concerned. But they had gotten this call that this birth mother had chosen them, had given birth in the middle of the night, and they were on their way to the hospital to meet this baby. And they decided on their way, because they had been told that this mother had been heavily drinking alcohol for her entire pregnancy except the 5th month, which there's such a risk for fetal alcohol syndrome that I was just really afraid for them that he might really be affected. So when I got there and they said that he was being detoxed and would be there for a while, I just chose to not say anything at that time, because they had already decided on their way there that no matter what, whether he had some disability or some difference in his appearance or anything, that they wanted to give him a home.
Mm.
And were committed to that. So
Mm.
I decided not to say anything to them because I knew what my parents had gone through. Of course, back when I was born, they didn't have so many genetic tests. They didn't have all the information they have now about what happens when mothers drink alcohol or take drugs or
Mm.
any of those things. And so you really, it was really a risk when you took a child because you did not
Mm.
know if there was mental health issues in the genetic family, um, all these things that could pop up that we know of now, they really weren't aware of. So when I was born, they actually had already adopted my adopted sister, who was 2.5 years older than me. And a few months before I was born, they had been called about a little girl that had been born. And when they got the description of her, they said, we're told that she was sickly. That's all, that's
Mm.
the word my mother ever said. And they declined getting her. So they
Mm.
got me, and not knowing that I did have developmental delays. I had ADD or ADHD, which also was new to knowledge. They didn't know about that then as well as they do now. Very immature as far as developmental level of childhood. And my sister had been this beautiful, curly-headed, dimpled, perfect child who wanted to play office very quietly and wanted to sleep in every morning and stay up every night with my parents. And she was absolutely a delight, a delightful child. And there are those children. I worked
Yes.
with children all of my life, and we've all known them. And let me tell you, they're there. But there are so many more children like me who march to the beat of a different drum, who have temper tantrums or have different things that they deal with. So, but they never compared us, which
Wow.
which which is really, really something to say about them, because
Mm.
I never heard them say, why can't you be more like your sister? You know, all these comparisons that I hear people today say. Never. They accepted me for who I was. I was a handful. That's what they said. I was a real handful, and I was very active. Those were the nice ways of saying things about my personality. But, you know, they raised me to be polite and to speak to people and to behave. I just was very, very active, and
Mm.
they were challenged. But I
Right.
was at this, you know, meeting this family and seeing them, especially over the past 5 years since this little boy was placed with them. I'm Facebook friends with them, and he has no was not affected at all, that I can tell, or but anything they've ever told me when we've had a conversation. He is doing well. He's gone to school. There was a video of him on their Facebook of him reciting a scripture verse that was pretty long at on the stage of their church in front of their whole church.
Wow.
So this is a couple of years ago when he was maybe 3. So he's a very bright little boy, and they have worked with him a lot. You can tell he's had a lot of attention. So this
Wow.
made me very grateful to my parents, and really enjoy this family who just would have given anything just to have him, and did. So
It's such, you know, I was so touched by you telling these stories when you were here, because, you know, I've worked with quite a few other writers telling their stories about adoption, and they don't often have such a happy ending as your story. I very often hear very sad stories about people that have been adopted. So it was really beautiful to hear you and hear your story about how you were given such a wonderful childhood and you had such wonderful parents. And as you say, even though you were, you know, a problem child compared to your other adoptive sister, you know, they gave you all the love and all the joy. And so very beautiful that you chose that kind of career path so that you could see that in other people. And each time you see that, enjoy the gratitude of how lucky you were.
Yes, very, very fortunate.
So we were talking about gratitude, and as we were writing your story and capturing your story for the book, it was very obvious to everybody how grateful that you were to have these wonderful parents and to have your adoptive sister. But I had never heard you talking about, wanting to find any real sisters or any other relatives. And yet, even though you had been with 23andMe for many years, I think you said 8 or 9 years, you had never found anybody other than like first cousins, right?
Yes.
And when you got back after spending a week of being very grateful for your family and being reminded and sharing the story with the world, something pretty special happened, right?
Yes, yes. Well, I had, from childhood, asked my parents from early childhood for them to buy me a brother, because my sister and I were, obviously, I've described the differences in our activity and the differences in the things that we liked. We were not ever close as far as playing together or doing things together. Now we did vacations together and lots of things, and we love each other, but just were not kindred spirits. And I saw other people that had that. So I really wanted a brother or a sister that I could do things with. So when I got back from Mexico, I was getting ready to, I was at work and I was getting ready to go to a meeting, and I heard an email pop up, and I thought, oh, I'll look at it very quickly. I looked at it and it was from 23andMe, and I just started to delete it because I get so many emails from them asking for me to participate in their genetic studies and all of that. Well, I had no health history. I had no knowledge of my biological family. So there was nothing for me to add to any of their studies. And so I just was just automatic in deleting that. And I had a billion fourth, fifth, sixth cousins that there was no reason to contact them because there's so many, and they can't help you if you are looking to find a biological relative that's close to you. But that email, when it popped up, I looked at it, and when I read it, my breath was just about knocked out of me, because it said, "Hi, Tami, I never knew that I had a biological sister." And this woman had just signed up with 23andMe, and we are full biological sisters. We have the same mother and father.
Wow.
So that was just such a dream come true, that I would have somebody else and know more information, as I had always wanted to know. I wanted to know my health history, very important. When I had my children, I'd always look very carefully to see if they had anything that looked like me, and they all had blue eyes and blonde hair, and I had black hair and brown eyes. And they do have similarities to me, but it wasn't the same as looking at your parents or looking at a sibling and saying, "Oh yes, you can tell we're sisters or brothers." So
right. Wow.
So very exciting.
And you are going to see her in 2 days.
Yes. She lives in Ohio and I live in Oklahoma. So it's about 12 hours.
Wow.
And when I called my best friend, well, first of all, my husband and I work for the same school. And I had to go to this meeting, and I could barely contain myself. And as soon as I was done with the meeting, I drove over to talk to him at his building. And he was so excited with me. He did not know what to do. He was so excited. But I called my best friend, and she said, she was very excited. She said, "Okay, when are we going to Ohio?" Yes. And I said, "I can't wait. We'll have to figure it out." And so this weekend is when we're going, and we're going to take off on Friday, and it'll be a long day. So we're going to meet Amy, my sister, the next morning. She'll have her best friend with her. and we'll be a foursome, and they have it all planned, what we're going to do, where we're going to eat, and we're going to go to Germantown or something like that and spend the day. So I'm just thrilled about it. I can't wait to see her.
Wow, that is going to be so amazing, Tami. And that's got to be one of the stories that I'm going to be telling many, many times, of the magic that happens when you come to Casa de Influencia, the house of influence. There we go. We influenced the energy out there with your absolute gratitude to bring to you your real sister. So that's a pretty magical story.
Very, very exciting. And yes, it was spring, the end of springtime, and I had had a very difficult winter and early spring, and came not just from the very last moment that we left to come to Mexico. I kept thinking, why am I doing this? I don't really have a story to tell. What am I doing? I'm not that important. I don't really have a good story to tell. And it all just came together. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe it was supposed to happen this way. And really, if you ever talk to an adopted child who does not know any of their biological information, that it's a loss. It's kind of a mourning where you don't really feel connected, or you feel separate in different ways. And I can tell you that from the time this happened, I have a great sense of peace that I've never had before. And it doesn't seem to matter. Work is difficult at times for me, and it doesn't seem to matter. I can put that over here. That's not my identity. That's not who I am. Who I am is myself, and I know my family, and it is a wonderful thing. I'm so thankful.
Wow. And, I just feel like this positive story for other people that have been adopted, and other people that have perhaps, always wanted to find real family. This is a really good example of, if you come from a place of gratitude, if you put out that energy of gratitude and the attitude of gratitude, of how important it is that, just because you did not have your real parents raise you, that doesn't mean to say that you were disadvantaged in life. In fact, you told me that your sister Amy said, I hope you had a better childhood than me.
Yes, she did. And I've heard a little bit about it. I haven't asked a whole lot of questions about it, but this weekend we'll probably talk more. But I think it was just very different. And I think when I was a social worker, I saw parents, and this is how my parents were. They've kind of, it's been a while. They've either found out they're infertile, they've done their vacations, they've got their careers, they're moving ahead with their life because they don't have children. When they finally get placement of a child, they are ready. They're ready to, so many of them are ready to give their lives to that child. I've seen that over and over again.
Beautiful. That's such a beautiful, beautiful story. And I think we're probably going to have to do another podcast interview to hear the rest of the story when you get to meet Tami. You've already said that you, just as you hoped, you sound alike, you look alike, you have many things in common. And so it sounds like your dreams are truly going to come true.
Yes, I'm just, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that it's all working this way.
It's beautiful, Tami. And as I say, I'm so happy that this happened at the House of Influence. We influenced the genetics to be able to, for your sister to find you, to reach out. And I can't wait to publish this book and to share your story. So, Tami, if anybody wants to get hold of you, and I'm thinking more that, there might be people that have been adopted and they want some support, or they'd like to connect with you. What's the best way to connect with you?
Probably by email.
Okay.
And it's Tami Jennings@gmail.com.
Okay. Tami Jennings@gmail.com. So if you are inspired by Tami's story and you would like to connect with her, then go ahead and give her an email. And Tami, I'll also put that on the show notes so that everybody knows how to get hold of you as well. And I'm very excited to be seeing you in November. You will be back here and we will be telling your story on the stage. And the official book launch is November the 6th. And so that's going to be a very special day. So I'm excited to see you soon.
Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for your time.
See you soon.